Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Metaphysical Hour. I'm Julia Cannon, and this is my co-host, Tracie Mahan.
Hello.
Come on in. We're so excited to be here. Come on in and shine your light. Tell us where you're from. Even though this is being pre-recorded, tell us where you're from. Remember, simultaneous time, it does not matter when you're watching this. You are here with us now. We can feel you. We know you. We love you. And please shine your light because that lights up your part of the grid. That's what I was talking about, Rob. That's what I want to ask you more about that because they just told me this is what's happening when you tell people to do this, and it's very, very important. So we'll talk more about that a little later. So shine your light, shine your grid, and then let's see. We don't need to do our normal things as far
I know I
as
was going to say,
Tiffany and
yeah, you don't need to put Tiffany in funny capital letters or emojis today. But if you want to say hi to Tiffany, I'm sure that she would love to come back and read all of that. Make your comments. This is pre-recorded. I'm going to be gone this weekend, and it was a perfect opportunity to invite Rob on the show. And you're going to find out all about Rob in a minute.
where are
But
you going to be, Tracie? What's going
I'm
on?
going to be at ESETI Ranch doing Skywatch with a group of people that took my channeling class. We're all going over there. We're going to talk to the ETs. We're going to get together. We're going to have a good time. Um, so I was teased a little bit because, it's tent camping and it's roughing it. And I said, is it still roughing it if you bring a blow up couch? I mean, I need to sit. So it's going to be a lot of fun, though. Very excited that I got invited to go along with that and do the Skywatch, do the UFOs, get together with like-minded people. Always fun. Speaking
Always
of
fun.
like-minded people, would you like to introduce?
Yes, we have a special guest. So excited. I've been invited to be a speaker at the channel panel that's happening in West Virginia in November, and I'm going to let him talk more about it. This is his creation, and so excited. And so we'll get to learn more about that, but also get to learn more about you, Rob. Rob, is it Gothier?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, perfect. Okay, good. I was like, oh, I think that's how it should be said, but I don't know for sure. But Rob Gothier, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here with both of you guys and your people tonight.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, what we like to do, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about the channel panel first, but I always like to get into your story, like how you got into all of this. So whichever order you would like to do, but I'm always fascinated by people's stories.
Yeah, yeah. If we want to talk about the channel panel later, that's fine too. I can share my story first.
Okay.
All right, so
In the beginning.
in the beginning there was lots of things. My story starts very young, growing up in kind of a very Christian household. And it wasn't, a lot of standard Christianity. It was the fire brimstone, don't
Yeah.
do or else you burn.
Mhm.
Um, but I was also very interested in religion, and I found it fascinating, and a lot of stories fascinated me. And I went through this experience, having some dreams, prolific dreams. I had a friend who saw a Sasquatch when he was younger and said, "Hey, Mama Monkey is running across the road in rural Michigan," and she's like, "No, buddy, Scott, the monkeys don't live in Michigan." And then we found feet prints and all sort of stuff. So
Wow.
yeah, yeah, it was the 80s and all this TV shows like the
Is that
Unsolved
Harry
Mysteries.
and the Hendersons is the one I remember. No.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
yeah, that was a great movie. And the stories that you hear about that, I had context for them. And so I started digging in books and shows. And eventually I get to the place where I ask a lot of questions that they didn't like. They're just like, "No, Rob, listen, the Bible says this, and that's the only, that's the answer."
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I couldn't ask any more questions. I left that about 13. I also had a UFO sighting right around the same time, and I didn't put the pieces of the puzzle together until years after I started channeling and doing my own spiritual work. But at that time, that activated something in me. And then through my teenage years, I went through a really rough stage. I live in Michigan, and Michigan, not a lot of people think of Michigan. And when they do, maybe cars or Detroit or something like that. But it's actually, especially in the late 80s, early 90s, had a lot of gang activity, a lot of street crime, and a lot of really rough things like that. And I joined into that lifestyle in my teenage years.
Okay.
And I got in a lot of trouble, committed a lot of violence, got hurt a lot. And that's just kind of the thing I did. And I lived through that for quite some time up until I was 19. I had my son, and my son was born in 99. I had just turned 19, and 4 months later, my son was born. He was born with cerebral palsy, and I didn't know that. I just knew he was born. He had the ICU. He wasn't breathing when he came out, and he was having seizures. That's all I knew. And then about a year and a half, when he was missing all of his developmental marks for what children are supposed to be doing, he missed all of them and by a lot. Um, and then when I asked the doctor, they're like, he's got cerebral palsy. And they explained to me what this means. This means he won't walk, he won't talk. He'll be lucky to go through his teenage years. He'll be
Okay.
dead before his teenage years. And as
Wow.
a 19-year-old kid,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, it was, I couldn't deal with that. And, when I had my son before he was born, I hate is a strong word, but back then I felt hatred towards children in general. I just didn't like them. I didn't want them around me. And
Mm.
even up until that moment he was born, I was like, I do not want to be a dad. I don't know how to be a dad. I don't like kids. But the moment I saw him, the moment the doctors handed him over and showed him to me, I fell in love. And for the first time in my life, I love someone more than I love myself.
Aw.
It was immediate. And so hearing this news was heartbreaking. Fast forward a little bit, a couple years later, I got into a car accident, Michigan, snowy winters. A deer ran out and I went to swerve and hit a tree. I messed up my shoulder and neck pretty bad. And they put me on pain medication, Vicodins, things like that. After taking those for a while, I realized that, wow, these pills help me not feel those emotions, the emotions that I've been fighting
Mhm.
myself with. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so I was mourning the loss of my child, and these pills made that all go away. Um, Obviously, taking those, I took more and more, had to get more to feel the similar effects
Yeah.
until I got kicked off by the doctors because they saw me abusing it. And then I went to the streets and it turned into a full-blown drug addiction. No longer just pills, but actual street drugs, hard drugs. And it was like that for about 7, 8 years. Um, I finally realized that the time and effort I was putting into him, that was the only thing. Like I burned all my bridges, I destroyed every relationship I had. The only thing I had was my love for my son and me being his majority caregiver. His mom had kind of checked out because of the emotional trauma she went through with it. Um, and it was just me. And when I saw he wasn't getting taken care of the way he deserved to, because my addiction had gotten so bad, I finally stopped. So during my recovery, which took me a few years, um, I started asking those questions I did as a kid, like, what's after life? Why are there UFOs in the sky? Why do people claim they see ghosts? What was Bigfoot about? All these questions.
Mm.
And I bumped into this spiritualism church, and they basically said, we can tell you what happens after people die because we can talk to people who are dead. And I was like, whoa, this
Never
is
heard that
gonna,
one before. Church.
yeah, yeah, believe it or not, it's a thing. And it's quite a big thing across Europe and America.
Yeah.
Um, but I was like, this is gonna be like the best thing ever, or it's gonna be the most fraudulent people in the world.
Yeah.
Um, and I went and it was amazing. They told about my son. They had told me about a couple generations back, things I didn't even know till I talked to my dad, and he's like, "Oh yeah, it's like your great grandmother." That they were talking about. And this is before social media. No one in the church, was 50 miles away. So I knew it was real. Whatever they were doing had something there. So I spent time around there and I said, I wish I could do what you guys do. And they said, everyone can do what we do. Um, this isn't just a gift that's given to us. Everyone could learn to tune into that. And I stuck around for the after and did meditations. And eventually, because it was a church and it still had those infighting and dogma and, pulling from two sides, I left and I
Mhm.
continued on my own for a while. And I ended up finding like the Monroe Institute Gateway experience as a hemisync. Um, and it was very powerful for me. It took my meditations to a new level. And then in an astral state one day, when I was at my very furthest kind of end of the rope, like life is getting hard again, I really need to figure out how to fix life or to take these meditations. I was doing, 3 meditations a day for an hour and a half, and then I was closing my eyes in between. So sometimes like 7, 8, 9 hours a day, I was doing meditations. It had become like the only way to feel good, a replacing of
Yeah.
drugs to
I
a
was just gonna say
replacing of
another
addiction.
escape mechanism.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, Eventually I got to that point where I just like I want to go beyond where I'm at with this meditation. So I went beyond the 21 steps that they taught in the Monroe Institute. And I met my first guide, Treb. And it was like a full-blown out-of-body experience. This being who was an extraterrestrial being, a gigantically huge, scary looking being. I see him and my heart fills initially with fear. I freeze. I feel my whole energy body just tighten up. And then
Mhm.
within probably, 10 seconds, that fear was replaced with love. Now, the only measure of real love I ever had was my son. Like I love my son more than I love myself. That's the standard for the best type of love that you could get or give. But I felt love coming from this being towards me that made the love that I had for my son feel very small and insignificant. And
Wow.
at that moment, I was like, oh, and I let go. And it was a very short meeting. He basically just kept me around for a few minutes and said, we're connected. Our souls are connected. If you ever want to come and connect with me, you can do it the same way you did. And then I stopped meditating for 3 or 4 days. I thought my brain was broken. I thought mental illness or the meditations fried my brain or something. Um, but I went back and I talked to him, and then I went back the next day and talked to him. And I talked to him for 2 years in meditation state before he taught me a lot of the stuff
Mhm.
that now I channel. And what he shared with me kind of changed my life, black and white. And I said, I want to be able to share this with other people, but I don't know how. And
Mhm.
by then, everything he was telling me, I'm looking it up online, and the things I'm finding to check against end up being Jane Roberts, Seth material, Daryl Anka with Bashar, just this
Mhm.
channeled information. And I said, can we do what they do? And he said, yes. So I learned how to channel him. And then 2010, the first time I channeled for practice, I did that with my son's mother, who thought also that I was insane. And then after about 4 times, the fifth or sixth time, I just put it on YouTube and I went ever since then, just kept uploading. And I thought, maybe 20 people will see this, maybe 100. And out of all those people, they'll all laugh at me, except for maybe one person it might help a little bit. And if they can get a
Mhm.
percentage of the help that I got from Treb, it would be worth, making an ass, pardon my French, making a butt out of myself online. But it ended up resonating with a lot of people and it continued to grow. My channeling kept on, but that's where it all started.
Wow.
Very cool. And then so then you've connected to more, or because that was the first, and then I know you say you channel a lot of different beings. So did you just keep on going, or they'd introduced another one, or how did that work?
Yeah, yeah. At this point, I think I've channeled over about 1,000 different ET types of beings and a couple collectives and even some angelic consciousnesses. So I've really gotten around to that. I would say the first year I just channeled Treb, and this guy asked to do a book. And when he did the book, he asked them, "Hey, is there any other beings you can connect us with?" And Treb said, "Yeah." One of them was someone that he had been telling me about for the 2 years before I channeled in the year I'd been channeling. He said that his relationship to him was like mine was to him. So Treb would be considered one of my guides, and Aradif would be considered one of his guides.
Oh, okay.
Uh, so he brought all these different beings through, but Aradif's message was the most profound 20 pages in the whole book. very in depth, talked about how the mechanics of the universe work and how consciousness works and incarnation and all these really detailed things. Um, and I channeled him a few times. And after I had started channeling for a living, instead of just channeling for free and sharing it, I started taking it on as a job because the demand was so high and I didn't have time to do my day job and that. So I chose to channel because it was exciting and it helped people.
Yeah.
And then by about the second year of me publicly channeling professionally, artists started coming through. And after artists started coming through, about a year later, he said that there are two beings or two consciousnesses waiting. One of them was Metatron, which people call Archangel, and the other one was a collective consciousness called the Nihal Collective, which had to do with Treb and his race and their development. So it was very interesting. And the more I channeled these types of beings, the more I was channeling for people, the more sessions that I was doing with them, the more that they would ask about, hey, do I have guides? And then their guides would come through. 15 years later, 2010, yeah, 15 years later, probably over 1,000 different ET types of consciousnesses or different types.
Wow, that's amazing. So in I hate to, I guess in a, not a nutshell, but what would you say is the most predominant message? I mean, you got some deep stuff there, but what would you say is maybe the most, like you would want to share right here? We can get into deep stuff if you like that's cool, consciousness and all the
How
biomechanics
does the
of these things.
universe work? Yeah.
Exactly. We can go there. But just maybe just an overview first. What do you think? What are the main messages that are coming through that they want us to know?
Yeah, if you do a main theme of it all, it's
Yes.
that you're an eternal soul living in a physical body
Mhm.
to create an experience for the whole. Um, so that means we're a little tiny fractal of the larger consciousness, and we divide ourselves into these lifetimes and live. Stuff that you guys know very well, stuff that you guys have done through your work and understanding. Um, and that was the biggest overall theme. And after that, then it goes to the extraterrestrial stuff. There's a lot of beings that exist in our galaxy, beyond our galaxy, are whole different galaxies, and each galaxy has their own kind of theme of evolution. Souls don't just stagnate, they evolve, and the way we see it, it's like a linear time. I'm
Okay.
incarnating and evolving, but
Right.
the way time really works, it's all happening now, and we're just choosing our focus of experience.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's a lot of stuff. And you know, the beautiful thing that I loved about your mother's work, Julia, and the work that you've taken on since then, it encompasses almost everything that's talked about with our channeling. And I don't know if you remember this. I met your mother and you, I think it was one of the last live streams that she did for Portal to Ascension before her transition. And I was there to help you with the tech support because I was also a presenter and Neil couldn't be there. So I walked you guys through it and talked to you and your mom. So I got an opportunity to hear her, and I had never heard of her before. I've heard of her before that, but I
Right.
never listened to
Heard
what
of it.
she had
Yeah.
to say. Right.
Mhm.
And it was absolutely fascinating. And it resonated so much with what I'd been channeling for years. And so the themes are very similar.
Yeah. Well, and that's, let's hope so, because that's, I mean, we're all
Yeah.
tapping into the same place, the same
Yeah, it's more
information.
confirmation that we're
Mhm.
getting, if everyone's getting the same information, that's great.
Yeah,
That's a good
exactly.
sign.
That's what I was
Yeah.
kind of hinting toward. I was like, are you, that's why I was like, why are you getting the same stuff? So yes, yay. Yeah, we're all tapped in.
It's funny too because I don't listen like during my first few years before I started channeling and even a year or two after I listened to a lot of others
Yeah.
because I just was like this is all so new to me and that was confirmation. And since I started doing it professionally, I rarely listen to any other people. Like I don't listen to channelers or presenters or teachers or any of this type of thing. Mostly it's just my own. And then I go to these events where there's multiple speakers when I'm invited to speak or something. Or, like the channel panel, I'm listening to things. And then I'm like, whoa, Wow, this is
Well,
another
we do the same stuff.
confirmation. Right. It's great. So
Right.
I do love that. And it shows the validity and the strength of the information that comes through, I think.
It
Yeah.
does. I know, Tracy, you have that. You do that as well. You don't listen
Yeah.
to others.
I was
And
actually told not to listen because I would go down all the rabbit holes, right? Like I would go into all the conspiracy theories, and I had a little podcast and I'd have these people on that kind of fed into all of that. And then when the channel came in, they said, "Okay, you did all of that. No more." And I asked why, and they told me it was so I'd be a clear channel. I wouldn't be influenced by what I was hearing from the outside. So I'm like you when I hear someone else, like people will get on my YouTube and go, "Oh, so and so was saying the same thing." And I'm like, "Yay." To me, that's such a good sign. It means,
Mhm.
we're all pulling in the same information, especially when it's something like really out there and weird. It's like,
Yeah.
do I even want to put that up? And I'll put it up, and then they're like, "Oh, somebody else is saying that too." And I'm like, okay, so it is out there. I'm not just being
And
crazy.
it's time for it
And
to
it's
be.
time for it to be heard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now there's a big push with the dragon energy, and it's kind of fun. Um, so that's something that I noticed other people are popping up and talking about that too. So that's been a lot of fun for me. I
That's
might be a little
amazing.
dragon fan.
Yeah, I'm very, very much into the reptilian archetypes. Actually, Treb, my very first guide was a reptilian human hybrid, which was also another layer of like shock to people. Like, why
Yeah.
is this reptilian sharing things about love? It's just like they couldn't comprehend the idea of a reptilian being
Exactly.
loving. Yeah.
We just
Yeah.
had that come up last week, and somebody was asking, like, well, what is this happening? It's like reptilians are just beings. We all
Yeah.
have these costumes. They're all just beings having these experiences. And what's to say? I mean, they're in human. I mean, there may be some that are not so flavorful, whatever. But for the most part, no, we're all loving beings. I mean, there's humans that are not
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
yes.
I,
yeah, and so
I
it's
tell
like,
people,
why?
there's other beings that see us and think we're scary,
Oh my
and
gosh,
we
there's
are.
yeah,
So,
they are scary.
but the way that on that subject, the way that that was explained to me when I was doing the channeling is that the frequency and dimension that they're coming from, we see it as scary, but they're just surviving. They're doing what it takes to survive, just like we are. And it
Mhm.
took all that fear out of it, just hearing it that way. It's like, yeah, they're just surviving. They're doing what they do to survive. And if what they do to survive, if they need our fear to survive, then they're creating what they need to survive.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
I
something
mean,
that
look
I
what we
de
do when we eat. What we're creating what we need to
True.
eat. And that
Mhm.
seems awful, So yeah.
Yeah, the murder of animals thing. Yeah, it's the reptilian thing is such a deep chasm of
Mhm.
understanding, and it's something that I don't think many people had talked about when I first started channeling. And the more I shared, the more I realized it went into that subconscious, like you guys said earlier. I noticed that information comes out from multiple sources also around the same time. It's weird how that works. And even my ex-wife, who's also a channeler, and she's an amazing channeler, she channels the darker types of reptilians after they've left the physical state. So they're reintegrated with their soul and they have a different perspective. And it was very fascinating. Me and her explored probably 2 or 3 years of understanding the darkness behind the reptilian energy together. And it's
Wow.
fascinating when you understand the why and you
Mhm.
Yeah.
understand, let go of your own judgment and try to step in the perspective of another. It's actually very fascinating. A lot of great pieces of information can be found when you let go of judgment and say, hey, let's try to understand this instead of just growling or
Yeah.
frowning at it.
Right. Well, I mean, all of these are pieces of a puzzle. Like, I mean, our own puzzle as well as the puzzle of the cosmos, of the whole universal system. And we have to have all these elements because that's the experience. I mean, that's what I'm constantly. It's all about the experience. It's all about the experience. That's what's helping you grow. It's what are you doing in there? That's how you're learning. So we're going to have a lot of different experiences and we're going to keep repeating things from different angles so we can have all the varied experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we're
Mhm.
all the same source and we're all
Mhm.
doing different thing, if we don't have that negative, we can't have the super positive, you know? We have to have all sides of the spectrum to contrast with each other. Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, okay, there was something that came in there. Keep talking. Keep going on your where you went next. Because I did have something come in and it just popped out. So
Sorry about that. Yeah. So the energy and the idea too that was really interesting about reptilians was like listening to the story of like the worst. Most people say the worst of the worst reptilians, alpha draconians, you know, um, and to understand their history and how they came and a lot of what you said too, they have to have this fear to survive. So something I figured out really early in my channeling was why do they need fear? And it's not just a survival mechanism like I need it to live. I mean, that's part of it. But the incarnation cycles that we do, they're natural, they're evolution, right? So eventually you have to be done with that cycle. So when you get to the last point of physicality, like the exit point, that means you're done physically reincarnating as that race. That race is completely done and over. And then you join a large collective and start anew. All the souls from a planet that go extinct, they end up joining some other collectives, breaking apart or keeping with themselves and create a new race on that planet. And that's what draconians were dealing with. They're like some of the longest living beings in the whole galaxy, at least, because they found out how to use that fear to circumnavigate them going back into reincarnation cycle. So this is like how they're cheating the system when they're using fear and they're using their external technologies and internal technologies together. They're actually preventing themselves from having to go back to oneness. They love who
Ah,
they are so much that they don't want to leave the incarnation cycle. And they're smart enough because they've evolved and they've gone through the evolution. They know that if they don't find a way to cheat the system, then they have to by nature's law, by evolution, by the ways and rules of consciousness in the universe. They kind of have to be kicked out. So that was something fascinating. And me and my ex-wife, when we were doing the work there, we found that out too. Um, Kalina, and I shouldn't say ex-wife, Kalina Angel, that's her name. And she's really us bouncing stuff off of each other, we really found a lot of really great information.
mhm.
it really does change how we can look at things with the more clarity and less judgment. Just hearing that, it's like, oh, interesting. Cheating the system. And then when you apply that to some of the things, Julia, that your mom would write in the books and, why are the volunteers here and all of that, it all kind of makes sense.
It really does because yeah, it's to raise the frequency, I guess, to get it out of that cycle of constant, and the
Yeah.
biggest thing to say if you want to shift is let go of fear, let go of judgment. But fear is like the major thing that will hold you here. So it makes sense of that's the real cycle,
Yeah.
the it
The
does. Wow.
survival. That's
Hmm.
pretty cool. I love that sharing of that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, it was very interesting, and it made me say, you know what? These beings love themselves. They love each other. They don't want to change. I can't blame them for that. I'm stubborn. I don't want to change.
Yeah. Put
So do
yourself in
they,
those shoes. If you could do it, wouldn't you want to? Yeah.
Sure.
yeah.
And
So
maybe we are.
well, it could, I mean, yeah, I'm just like, I'm thinking, well, do we know that part of the story yet to know, do they shift? Do they get tired of that and finally move on? Or are they're like, no, we want to just keep circumnavigating and just stay.
So something I found out that, the Draconia, it's a complex ecology of these types of souls. There's multiple factions, there's multiple divisions, there's multiple hierarchies within each division and each faction. And some of the factions broke away from the main faction and have only done that for the last several hundred years. So that proves to me that things are shifting there. Some of them want to explore what love is. Some of them just don't want to be associated with the main organization and want to explore neutrality instead of more towards mid neutrality to malevolence. That right there proves that it can't be sustainable. That it's not, it can't be a long term. And when I ask my own guides, they're also souls in bodies, right? They're extraterrestrial beings. So that means they're not directly into source. They might be a lot closer to source than we do and have a lot more information, but they still say, yes, they can't sustain this forever. No one can stay away from having to go through the reintegration process. So, they've been the longest living beings here, even the individual beings themselves can live up to 1 million years for one lifetime. That tells you how much consciousness they've put into being physical. To live a
Yeah.
1 million years is
Yeah.
crazy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. They're kind of stuck on it. They're stuck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they
It,
are.
it is a pretty incredible thing to accomplish, though. That's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, and that's kind of why they're feared very much. They're just so far ahead of every other race. And in my own community with the extraterrestrial channeling community, there are these things people talk about called the Orion Wars, and the Draconian beings were a part of that. And that was a long time ago. And still, there's only, I think, one race that's even close to them as far as how long they've been in the universe physically, and that's the ancient Andromedan beings. And they didn't even come from the Milky Way. They came from the Andromeda galaxy. So, and they're more positive oriented beings, but they extend one lifetime into a longer lifetime, which is why the incarnation cycles kind of take a little longer. But, it's very fascinating for me to kind of understand that these beings have been around for so long, and and to hear from their perspective, they said we came to this galaxy from a whole other area of consciousness. They came to this galaxy, and immediately a lot of the humanoids just didn't like them. They're like, "What are you doing spreading your seed of reptilians all around the galaxy? You're creating imbalances here." And they're like, "No." And then when they tried to stop them, then there would be war because that's what reptilians do. You're not going to prevent us from doing what we want to do, and if you do, then
Yeah.
it's fighting time. So, you know, maybe overreacting a bit by destroying a whole planets and stuff, but that's kind of what they've done. And
Mhm.
so from their perspective, we weren't hurting anyone or anything, and then we get a bunch of people telling us we can't move here, or that we can't create children, or we can't do this. So yeah, taking away your own predetermined perspectives is kind of an important thing too.
Right. Yeah. So looking at the clock, I'd like to know, I know we want to talk about the panel, but do we want to ask Rob to maybe go into a little bit of a
Yeah.
channel message for the audience? And
Yeah.
then when you're done
Yeah.
with that, we can talk about the panel. Would that be okay?
Sure, I would love to. How long do you want me to channel for?
We have about 20 minutes left, so maybe 10. I don't know how long it talks to talk about the panel. I want to make sure we got enough time so everybody understands what you're offering there with that too.
Yeah, 20, you're right, 20. Okay.
So about maybe 10, 15 minutes, and then we'll talk about the panel.
Mhm.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. I think I'll channel I think I'll channel Treb, who's my original guide. He's my reptilian guide. He's
Okay.
also very loving and ridiculous, a little bit ridiculous in how loving he
Chills.
is. Yeah. Yeah.
As soon as you said it, it was just like, and this is something weird because I didn't know we were going to be talking on this subject this morning. And when I got, or yesterday is when we arranged all of this. And when I got in the shower yesterday, out of my mouth, out loud, I said, "Am I a reptilian?" And I thought that was really a weird thing to say. And now we're having this entire reptilian conversation. So I just want to say they know things before we know them, right?
Absolutely.
Crazy stuff. Anyway, yeah, let's let you do your thing. And when you come back, we'll talk about the panel.
All right, sounds good. It takes me a minute to drop in. I'll just let Treb pop in and say hi, and yeah, I'll let him do his thing. And he might ask you guys if you have any questions, and if you do, feel free to ask him.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. Good evening, Tracy. Good evening, Julia.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, it is very exciting evening for us as well. We want to share with you an idea of sharing. First of all, we listen to the communication between yourselves and the host and the energy of excitement that's built from understanding your own self and understanding others is very large in the souls that share this space in this moment. But we also understand that many humans fear the concept of sharing beyond what they understand, what they feel, and what they know in their minds. So we also want to share a little bit about ourselves. We understand that many humans perceive reptilian consciousness as that of negativity, that of domination, that of warfaring beings, or malevolence incarnated. But we also wish to share the side with you for beings such as ourselves that encompass more of the type 1 energy of consciousness that is incarnated. Now, when we say the words type 1, what we are meaning is that there are two types of entities that exist in the physical universe and an energetic spectrum. One that is the type 1, and these consciousness, such as ourselves, we observe the free will of other beings. We understand our oneness with the universe. We understand our oneness with all things that are in source. So in that way, we understand consciousness that is higher than ours in dimension, higher in perspective, higher in the base of knowledge. We are able to siphon that energy into ourselves that is shared with us and then redistribute it to dimensions or consciousnesses or intellect that is lower than ourselves. In this way, we are simply one unit, a mechanism of consciousness that is able to observe what we see, what we can come to learn, and share that equally with every entity that desires. This way, it shows the interconnectivity of oneness that we are. We also perceive that of your sovereignty and free will, and our own actions would not intervene or interfere with that sovereignty, as self-sovereignty and collective sovereignty is very important. All souls are in a mission. All souls know what they desire to do. All souls have a purpose for growth and expanding, and we are never meant to stand in the way of that experience. So then there are those in the second variety and category, those that are type 2 in nature. Now, where type 1 is very black and white in that way, where we are one type of one type, the energy in type 2 is more so a spectrum. This encompasses the regulations, that sovereignty is not always prioritized, that they have the ability to see oneness but do not see complete oneness. And this, of course, the spectrum, very benevolent beings that are very loving and can observe free will, all the way to malevolency that observes no free will. But no matter what energy they are, there's always some perspective of disconnection of oneness, all of the way to a chasm of disconnectedness. Pure disconnectedness, only perceiving and only caring about an individual being or individual race of beings. And this is the spectrum of energy, highly benevolent, very loving. Now, many humans perceive that this could be a type 1, that they are loving and benevolent. But in the experience of observation of free will, there are many races that work with humans that if you ask them, their own heart believes that they love human beings, and they do for human beings. But if you were to say that humans have started a nuclear war with one another? Would you intervene? The simple fact that they say yes and would step in the middle, that is an intervention. That
Mm.
is their own desire. So this is still impedes the free will of the humans who wish to have nuclear war with one another. Now, of course, that is a good thing for you, so you will love that and praise that. In our own consciousness, we would not, but we also recognize that as souls, as entire collectives of souls, that if you truly desired to not have nuclear war, but two or three entities on the earth say they wish to have nuclear war, as a collective, you will attract those beings that will interfere on your behalf so that the nuclear war won't happen. As a collective, we know that you will choose the other races that you attract to Earth to co-create an experience with you. Now, on the other side of that great chasm of type 2 beings, the ones that are most malevolent, these are ones that all humans know very well. The beings who will take over free will if they believe that it benefits him, the one that doesn't care for your free will. Also, those that are type 2 in nature do not respect energies below them, and they only use the energies that are above them to take and not to share or not to give. They take for their own individual need. So in that example, a malevolent type 2 entity would find access to information in higher dimensions, but only use that to benefit their race or to benefit the personal self, where those that are type 1s will redistribute that energy. So we hope that you now have a better understanding of the type 2, which of course is very human in nature. Human beings are type 2 entities. And this beautiful spectrum that humans hold of type 2 is one that creates great curiosity for many races, creates great excitement of learning with other races, and it is also interesting in the way that humans produce, that even a human inside of their own soul is able to feel the entire spectrum of type 2 in one lifetime, in one moment. The human being that is a cold-blooded killer that may harm others for money or harm others for financial gain. These same beings that have such a cold heart, that are disconnected deeply from their own soul and heart, are able in the same day to go home to their child, to tuck them in and hug them and kiss them with a greater sense of love. And to us it is very exciting to see a human being or a race of beings that have the capacity for such deep darkness and such beautiful light and love as well. So this is what we wish to share with you all, and if you have any questions, we can answer them for you as well.
I think that's kind of fascinating. You're giving us all a new way to think about everything, I'm sure. So we're speaking to Treb, is that right?
Yes.
Perfect. We have about 5 more minutes with you. Ever since you started talking, I just felt like picking up a pencil and I'm scribbling out symbols and light language. Um, I'm just wondering, is there what we refer to as light language or soul language? Is there a language that you use through Rob to share the vibrations and frequencies in such a way?
Yes, we've never shared a light language through the host or a vibrational signature, but the sound vibration that encompasses our pure joy and excitement is one that the host calls the lizard purr. In that way, it is similar, as the host would think, to a cat purring, but it is just us sharing our greatest joy, and this is the noise you have already heard us express, and we will reproduce it quickly so you understand the example. One moment, please.
Perfect. I don't
Yes.
know. We heard a
Love
little
it.
bit of that, and then I think the microphone drowned it out. But there we go.
Love it. Love it.
That's really good.
Yes, and very exciting as well.
Well, something that came to me when you first started speaking was the visual. Remember, Tracy, when we were in at the Grand Canyon and the dragons that we were seeing there, that was, and
Yeah.
this one that just looked right at me and it just turned its head and it looked at me, and I've been trying to find a picture, but that whole scene popped in my mind when you started talking. What does that have to do with anything? Is there a connection here?
Yes, the dragon energy is a symbol that symbolizes many things. Yes, there were entities that were very wise and higher dimensional that held dragon energy, as you understand it today, but it is also a symbol for the reptilian archetypal consciousness. Knowing the majestic nature of reptilian consciousness, understanding its ability to be both fierce and loving, also understanding the nature of Earth and its history. Many humans are not aware of the reptilian beings that have an incarnation cycle on Earth. These are not the same beings that the host spoke of the Draconian, although they are hybrid beings of those Draconians, and these Earth reptilians have nurtured and loved humans throughout your history and time, and there was a moment of division between reptilian beings and human beings on Earth, and this is where the dragons disappeared in your own mythology and your own understanding. It wasn't due to the experience of actual flying beings, that was second density types of animals that come out of play, but it is an actual human communication with reptilian consciousness and their love and connection for that is symbolized there as well.
Okay.
Yeah, very cool. Um,
Yes.
Unfortunately, we didn't leave a lot of time for the channeling, and we still want to talk about the panel. Any parting words before we bring Rob back?
Yes, we are excited to have co-created with all of you, and we leave you all this day in love and in light as well. Good night.
Good night. Thank you,
Nice.
Treb.
Thank you.
All right. And the face
Very
changes.
nice. Yes. Like, I'm
Energy
back.
shifts.
Well,
Thank you
how'd
for
it
doing
go?
that for us. I know that was a
Sure.
lot for just a little bit of time.
When you do that, we could talk about that a little bit before we get on the channel panel. When you do that, do you completely go out and
Yeah,
see, are you're aware of anything that happened, or yes or
not here. No, not with what you guys are talking about, no.
okay.
Wow.
Okay. There we go.
Very cool.
And that's a really cool, I mean, there's a lot of different forms of channeling, and that's one that's always fascinated me. I mean, it's like, where do you go?
I'll share real quickly. I know you said
Mhm.
it's getting close to time, but
Sure. Okay.
uh, the the first multiple years that I channeled Treb, I actually was going and visiting Treb like I did in the astral states for the first couple of years I knew him before I started channeling him. So
Mhm.
while he was talking to you, or Ardif was talking to you, or one of the thousand
Okay.
ETs were talking to you, I was just hanging out with Treb wherever he was on his planet, on his ship, wherever he was at. A year ago, I worked with Wendy Kennedy, who's another amazing channeler. She helped me bring it in quicker because it would take 15 minutes and neutralization. It took a long time. Plus, whenever I was doing live events, it was very awkward to have to do the oming for 3 minutes and wait 15 minutes before, and it
Mhm.
just wasn't feasible. So she helped me connect it quick. And now I black out when I do it quick, like I did it today.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a deep trance type of channeling.
Well, that's very impressive. And yeah, you brought that in pretty quick for that deep channel.
Thank you.
Speaking of
Yeah.
channel, talk to us about the channel
Yeah.
panel
Yeah.
and are you inviting the world to come see this? What's happening? Tell me about it.
Yeah, the channel panel is the world's largest all channeling event. And even though we don't only have channelers, like Julia is coming, and she's not a channeler per se in that same way. Um,
I don't do
that
that.
right,
I don't do what Tracy does, and I don't do what you do, but I do something. It's not much.
yeah, well, I think it's channeling too. I consider a lot of things channeling. People
Yeah.
have an idea of what it is, but we create this space for channelers to connect, and we have an amazing lineup. We've got like Daryl Anko, Indy Kennedy. We've got I almost said Lisa Royal Holt, but she's not until next time. We've got Jamie Price, myself. We've got a lot of amazing channelers. And that's what we do. We bring them together. It's going to be November 14, 15, and 16 this year. It's in Princeton, West Virginia, which is a very small town, but a beautiful venue, holds 900 people. So there's only 900 seats, and then we're doing live stream. So for those 3 days, we have the people on the main stage, and they're going to be doing Q&A with the audience for 60 or 90 minutes. And then we're also doing workshops for people who come there in person. You can, go and check out these different workshops and take, 2 hours or 90 minutes to spend personal time with them in a smaller group, a break-off group of like 120 people. And we're doing that on the same 3 days. We did one in January that was absolutely amazing. Oh, Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar, I forgot to mention him. He's also going to be there. Uh, so yeah, it's just an amazing group of channelers. And in West Virginia, there's a lot of energy to the ancient mountain area there. The Cherokee tribe has been around that area for a long time. They've anchored ritual energy there. A lot of Sasquatch energy is there. A lot of
I'm part Cherokee. Can I say that?
Oh, beautiful.
Uh, I'll be
Going
at home.
back to, yeah, you're going back. That's actually the name of the event, going back home to the soul and connecting, the whole theme is going back into your family and your soul family. Um, the first one we had, every channeler who was there just spoke really highly about it. Neil Gar, who does Portal to Ascension, who's done hundreds and hundreds of events across the whole world. He said that he's been to hundreds, if not thousands, of events in Sedona, and this one was one of the most profound and filled with love. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring the heart energy into the experience. So it's an amazing thing. And anyone who wants to go there, thechannelpanel.com, you can buy in-person tickets or online streaming tickets and join us. I think it's fun. I'll be there channeling too, so it'll be great.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Remind us of the dates again. No,
Yeah, November
November.
14th. Yeah, November 14, 15, 16. That's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So you
Wow.
only have to take Friday off of work.
Love it. And Julia will be there.
I will be
Julia will
there.
be there and
Maybe I
doing
can
an
help you
amazing
raise some
workshop.
She will be not channeling.
Yeah, I'll be doing what I do.
She'll do
I
it
talk,
Julia
and then if
style.
something happens, that
They're
just slips
telling
through.
me.
They're telling me. That's my thing. They're telling me this.
Yeah.
I
It's
hear
very
this.
exciting to see both of you guys live and that group of beautiful souls that you have coming in to share and join you guys is going to be amazing. So
We have one. Well, maybe we don't. Maybe
we have
this is
about 30 seconds. Go.
okay. Go. Remember, I was saying I wanted to ask you about when I'm telling people to shine their light, that they're shining. They're lighting up their part of the grid. Do you have
Yeah.
anything on that, as far as like why that's so important? What I get is that's really, really important, and I'll know more as we keep going.
Yeah, the more joy you put into the world, the more you act on that joy, the more consciousness that's uplifting and positive you're putting into the grid system. And that grid, I've always looked at it, everything you push out is 1/8 billionth divided into every human around the earth. So the more that we put into that, the more we share love, the more everyone gets love, the more everyone receives love.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. See everybody,
Love it.
light up your grid.
So
That's
important.
fantastic.
I love that.
Oh my goodness, this is wonderful. Thank you so much, Rob. It's
Thank
been
you for
fantastic.
being here.
Yes, absolutely. And I
Thank you
can't
for
wait
having
to
me on
see
both
you.
of you.
Yeah, I can't wait to see you again in November, and we'll have a blast. I hope you guys join us.
Go check it
Can't
out.
wait to give you a
everybody.
big hug.
Yes, same here.
Beautiful.
Thank you. All
All
right.
right. Bye-bye, everybody.